Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take your source material, and it can be anything, really. And we pull out the insights that matter for navigating modern life.
I mean, today's a fascinating one. We've got this conversational transcript.
It's just a conversation,
Yeah.
but it manages to cover two absolutely massive topics.
Massive is the right word. On one hand, you have the distraction of social media, something we all feel.
And then it just pivots.
Yeah.
Completely. To this age-old debate between love marriage and arranged marriage.
Quite the journey, isn't it? Jumping from, the micro-discipline of managing a little screen in your hand to the macro-discipline of choosing a life partner.
But there's a thread connecting them.
There is. And the core theme, it really seems to be about intentionality and managing risk.
That's the key. So our mission today is to unpack this whole discussion. We want to draw out the lessons here about prioritization, about commitment, and how we actually measure the real cost of the choices we make.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're, dealing with a deadline at work or a huge life decision, these sources give us some really valuable perspectives on how distraction, digital, and emotional can just derail everything.
And we're going to synthesize this for you. So you can walk away understanding not just what behaviors might be holding people back, but also the psychological forces.
Yeah.
The societal pressures at play.
We're going from the cost of the scroll to the philosophy of commitment. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with what is probably the most relatable struggle for, almost everyone listening, the constant pull of the digital world.
It's immediate. The conversation we reviewed, it kicks off almost right away with this very frank admission.
Yeah, they just say it. They say they're spending, and this is a quote, probably too much time on social media.
Probably too much.
Yeah.
That phrase, it just perfectly captures our relationship with these platforms, doesn't it?
It does. It's that baseline guilt.
Exactly. This sense of, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I am. And they get specific, too. They mention scrolling through Instagram or Facebook for hours every day.
And that's the key behavior. It's passive.
It is. It's not creating something. It's not even necessarily active communication. It's just consumption. Consumption without a clear goal.
And what I found interesting is how fast they go from just describing the habit to diagnosing the feeling. They say it has become a bit of an addiction.
That's a huge shift right there.
It is, because it means the behavior no longer feels like 100% choice. It feels compulsive. It's driven by something else.
Well, and when we talk about addiction in this context, we're not, use the clinical term.
Of course not.
But we are acknowledging a very powerful psychological mechanism. It's called intermittent reinforcement.
The slot machine effect.
Precisely. These platforms are engineered, they're built from the ground up to give you random rewards. A like, a new comment, an interesting video,
Yeah.
but on a totally unpredictable schedule.
And that's what gets you hooked.
It's the most effective way known to build a habit. It makes it feel almost impossible to put the phone down, even when a part of your brain is screaming that you should.
So that explains the compulsion. But what about the cost? The source material connects that feeling of addiction to real-world negative impacts.
It does. They specifically call out a decrease in productivity at work.
And that highlights the zero-sum game of time, doesn't it? If you spend, say, 3 hours a day chasing those little unpredictable dopamine hits,
Right.
then those are 3 hours you are not spending on deep work or thinking strategically or, even just going for a walk.
And that's what makes the cost so insidious. It's not just the time you waste. It's the erosion of your ability to focus.
Explain that.
Deep work, the kind of work that actually moves your career forward or helps you master a subject. It requires long, unbroken blocks of concentration.
And the phone is the enemy of that.
It's the ultimate enemy. The constant expectation of a notification, the habit of just a quick check of the feed, it fundamentally shatters that ability. So the cost isn't just the hours you lose, it's the quality of what you could have produced in those hours.
The intellectual output is just degraded.
Completely.
To make this real, the source gives us this very vivid, high-stakes story, the case of a student named Anna.
Right, and this is where it moves from a kind of vague drop in productivity to a really undeniable real-world failure.
And the details here are so... She did get a good score on some of the exams.
Which is key. She wasn't incapable.
Not at all. She had the ability. But she failed one of them overall.
It's a surprising outcome, isn't it? It suggests she wasn't totally disengaged from her studies. She could pull it together sometime.
Exactly. So why the mixed results? What do you think was happening there?
My guess. The exam she passed probably relied on recall, rote memorization, maybe some last-minute cramming.
Things you can do in short bursts.
Exactly. Tasks that you can still accomplish even with a high level of distraction. But the overall course grade, or maybe that one exam she failed, that probably required synthesis, critical thinking.
Deeper learning.
Yes. The application of knowledge that you build up over weeks of sustained, deep focus. And that's what she couldn't do.
That's the difference between just knowing facts and true mastery, and the source is very clear on the cause. It says Anna is spending a lot of time on social media.
Posting pictures every day, chatting with online friends.
It's like a second job. It's this huge time commitment to maintain a digital persona, and it looks like it's made of tiny little moments, a minute here, like there, but it all adds up.
It becomes this massive diversion of energy, so you have this direct conflict. The sources say studying requires time and dedication.
But she was dedicating a huge chunk of her time and her mental energy to her online self.
So that dedication had to come from somewhere. It was stripped away from her academic goals. And the results, well, they speak for themselves. A mixed performance that ends in an overall failure. It's a perfect reflection of that compromised dedication.
And this brings up a really important question. One, the source material asks too, is Anna's struggle just, one person's story? Or is this a universal student struggle now?
And the conversation immediately broadens out. It acknowledges that her situation is likely representative of a lot of students struggling with their grades.
For a generation that grew up with this technology.
For them, the ability to find that intense, singular focus that you need for real academic success, it's just constantly under assault.
And the real tragedy here is that she had the intelligence. We know she did because of her good scores on some of the exams.
Her failure wasn't a lack of ability.
No, it was a failure of prioritization, a failure to build a structure for herself to manage the distractions around her.
It's a powerful lesson. Digital distraction isn't some minor annoyance. It can literally be the one thing that separates potential from failure.
That lack of microdiscipline
Leads directly to macro failure.
Yeah. So after that student anecdote, the source material, I think correctly, pivots. It zooms out to the wider population.
Right, with that really bold declaration that everyone is addicted to social media these days.
Which shifts the whole focus. It's not just about grades anymore. It's about managing modern life. Period.
And the key insight, the moment of clarity in the sources, is when they say, we don't even realize how much time we're wasting.
It's so true. That time is so slippery. It's never a big 3-hour block on your calendar that says waste time.
No, it's the 100 tiny decisions, a quick glance at a notification, a little scroll while you're waiting for coffee.
And suddenly hours of your week are just gone.
And that realization leads them to a really crucial question about the return on investment, the ROI.
They actually ask it. What do we really get out of posting our photos and giving likes to other people's posts?
And the consensus they reach is, well, it's almost brutally honest.
Not much, honestly.
Not much, honestly. But wait, I want to push back on that a little. Because if the ROI was truly not much, why do billions of us do it every single day?
That's a great question. There has to be some kind of payoff.
I think there is. It's just not financial or intellectual.
Yeah.
The ROI is emotional.
Social validation.
It's pure social validation. As humans, we are hardwired to seek approval from the group. So every positive comment, it's a little hit, a psychological affirmation. It tells our brain, you're accepted, you belong, you're seen.
So the tangible outcome is low. It doesn't pay your rent.
It doesn't pass your exams.
But the psychological payoff feels huge in the moment. And it's immediate.
It's immediate and it's powerful. The problem is that reward system is incredibly shallow and it's fleeting.
So we're trading real long-term success for these little momentary superficial pats on the head. That's the zero-sum game they're talking about.
That's it, exactly. The time you spend curating and maintaining a digital mask is time you are not spending building actual tangible skills. Or, real relationships.
So if the tangible return is so low and the cost in lost focus and failure is so high, the only logical next step is a course correction.
Towards intentionality.
Right. And the big takeaway here is that drive to be more intentional, to change the relationship so that social media has to, I like this idea, it has to earn its place in your life.
It has to demonstrate that it's actually adding value, not just sucking it away.
It means you have to flip the script in your head. Instead of asking, what am I missing if I don't check my feed?
You have to start asking, what am I actually gaining by opening this app right now?
And if the answer isn't, I'm learning something, or I'm connecting with someone I care about, or I'm feeling inspired,
then the cost of that scroll is higher than the benefit. You have to start treating your time and attention like the finite, precious resources they are.
Yeah.
And guard them aggressively.
Okay, so they've identified the problem, the addiction, the cost, and they've landed on this need for intentionality. What's next?
Well, naturally, the conversation moves to solutions. Practical, actionable steps. These aren't just, abstract ideas. They're concrete strategies that the people in the conversation were actually discussing.
And the first one, which seemed like the most critical, is setting a time limit.
The idea of imposing a daily, non-negotiable boundary like, I will only spend 30 minutes on this app today.
But the sources add a really important detail. It's not just setting the timer, it's the follow-up action. They say, then I have to put my phone away.
And that physical act is everything.
Why is that so important?
It's about creating what behavioral economists call friction. If your phone is sitting right there on the desk, the friction to pick it up is basically zero. Your habit just takes over.
But if it's in another room,
or in a drawer, or in your bag, you've created a physical barrier. You've introduced friction. That forces a moment of conscious thought before you can re-engage. The rule is almost useless without that environmental control.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. What was the second strategy?
The second one is a bit more drastic, taking breaks.
Like a full-on detox.
Exactly. They talk about social media breaks lasting a week or two, which suggests that for some people, just limiting time isn't enough. They need a total system reset.
And what does that do neurologically?
It helps recalibrate your neurochemistry. When you starve that intermittent reinforcement loop for, say, 7 to 14 days, the psychological craving actually starts to go down.
You break the cycle?
You break the cycle.
Yeah.
You start to notice all the extra time you have. You find other ways to engage with the world, other sources of reward. Many people find that after a real detox, when they do go back, the compulsion is way weaker. And it's easier to stick to those time limits.
Now, the third strategy I found the most interesting because it's not just about subtraction.
Right. It's about positive consumption.
It's about shifting the focus from just reducing your time to actually improving the quality of that time.
So you're actively curating your feed. You're making a conscious choice to follow accounts that inspire me or teach me something new.
Instead of just mindlessly scrolling through my feed.
It's moving from being a passive consumer to an active, disciplined curator. It takes real self-awareness. You have to unfollow accounts that make you feel envious or anxious.
And you have to intentionally seek out the ones that offer real value. Education, encouragement.
You're essentially turning the platform from a distraction engine into a research tool. Or a motivation board. It becomes an intellectual investment, not just an emotional drain.
I love that. And then the segment ends on this this collaborative note. The idea of starting a social media detox challenge.
Or even a social media revolution.
Yeah. And that shows they recognize this isn't just an individual problem, it's a collective one.
And that shared accountability, that group motivation, that can make sticking to your own personal discipline so much easier. They're basically using the social power of the internet to fight the addictive power of the internet.
Which is a really fascinating meta solution when you think about it. Gru, okay. So we've just spent all this time going deep on the risks of digital distraction, the importance of this, micro discipline.
Right.
And now we pivot. And this is the moment in the source material where the conversation just takes a hard left turn.
It really does. It shifts from the small daily risk of wasting time
to a massive lifelong risk, choosing a partner.
But it doesn't feel as jarring as it sounds. It actually feels like a thematic escalation.
I agree completely. It's like you're moving from managing your short-term focus to managing your long-term risk.
Both topics, scrolling addiction and who you marry, they're fundamentally about the same things.
Yeah.
Intentionality and managing volatility.
In one case, you're risking your focus for the day. In the other,
you're risking your stability for the next 50 years.
So the sources lay out these two opposing philosophies. On one side, you have strong support for love marriage. The focus there is on autonomy and passion.
On the other, you have this staunch defense of arranged marriage, which prioritizes compatibility and what you could call structural stability.
It's a dichotomy that reflects two completely different ways of thinking about life's biggest decisions.
So we need to analyze these two systems based on the arguments in the source and understand that each one is built on a very different set of assumptions about people and, what makes a life successful.
Okay, so let's start with the case for love marriage. As the source presents it, the argument really rests on this modern ideal of freedom.
Personally freedom.
Yeah. The core principle is choice. You get to choose your partner.
And that puts the individual's emotional well-being and their autonomy above everything else.
And that choice is supposedly strengthened by the advantage of premarital knowledge. The idea is you already know them well before getting married. So your decision is based on a real history, a real connection, shared experiences. The thinking is that the risk is lower because you've done your own vetting, over months or even years.
Right. And the sources also suggest that this foundation of choice and intimacy can create incredibly strong relationships if both partners are committed to each other.
That if is doing a lot of work.
It is. The emphasis is on the emotional bond being the spark, and then commitment is the fuel you have to keep adding to the fire. So it starts with passion, and then it requires discipline to maintain.
So the key assumption here is that you, the individual, are the best judge of your own long-term happiness.
And that the intense emotional connection, the love, is a strong enough foundation to get you through any storm. It really prioritizes a person's subjective emotional experience over any kind of external objective data.
It's a huge vote of confidence in your own judgment, but as we're about to see, that total reliance on internal feeling is exactly where the critiques start.
Okay, so in total contrast to that, you have the argument for arranged marriage.
Where
And it just flips the whole script.
it's called the more traditional approach, where the process of choosing a partner is it's externalized. It's almost professionalized.
The families get involved and help choose a partner that's compatible with you.
Hmm.
The goal here isn't romance, at least not at first. The goal is systematic risk mitigation.
It's about structural alignment.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the logic here directly confronts what they see as the biggest weakness of the love marriage model, the fear that love fades away after marriage.
If the whole relationship is built on passion, what's left when that passion cools down?
Right. So in an arranged marriage, the idea is you build the relationship after the wedding.
Yeah.
You work on building love and understanding with your partner over time, start stable, and then you try to build affection on top of that stable base.
And the sources really highlight the holistic selection process. The family acts like this objective vetting committee. And they look at factors that go way beyond just initial attraction. They look at compatibility, family background, and other important factors.
And this is where we need to do our deep dive. Because what are those other important factors? They reveal the whole pragmatic philosophy behind this system.
So when families are vetting a potential partner, they're looking at things like socioeconomic alignment.
Are the families on a similar financial footing?
Right. They're evaluating the stability of the other family's reputation, their shared financial goals, their social standing, and, crucially, the compatibility of their life paths.
So does this person's career ambition work with our family's structure and expectations?
It's essentially an economic partnership, but it's framed as a life partnership. The goal is resilience.
It's based on the understanding that a marriage isn't just two people. It's two entire family systems merging their assets, their reputations, their responsibilities.
So by prioritizing things like shared values around debt or similar upbringings or expectations for elder care.
The arranged system is trying to eliminate a lot of the variables that cause huge fights years down the road. It's a very rational, almost business-like approach to a 50-year contract.
It's like the difference between choosing a business partner because you have fun getting coffee with them
versus choosing one because you've reviewed their balance sheets and you share a 5-decade vision for stability.
Exactly. And the proponents in the source material argue that this structured, comprehensive vetting dramatically increases the chances of long-term stability, even if it means sacrificing that initial spark.
Now we have to get into the risks, because this is where the source material gets incredibly sharp, and it ties everything back to our first topic, emotional distraction.
This is where it gets really interesting. The central critique of love marriage is summed up in that old saying, love is blind.
The argument is that people often overlook red flags when they're infatuated.
That emotional high, it acts just like a digital distraction. It pulls your attention away from objective reality. It stops you from doing a rational assessment. The euphoria literally masks fundamental problems.
It's a failure of risk management that's rooted in cognitive bias. When your brain is flooded with dopamine and oxytocin, the parts of your brain responsible for critical thinking. They quiet down.
So you're prioritizing the immediate, powerful, emotional hit, the feeling of being in love, over the long-term objective analysis.
You are. The analysis of, is this person actually capable of supporting my life goals for the next 40 years? It's the exact same pattern as the student choosing the dopamine hit from a social media like over the long-term goal of passing her exam.
And to illustrate this risk, the source gives us this just devastating anecdote. The story of the college friend whose life was completely turned upside down by a breakup.
It's such a powerful cautionary tale about the volatility that pure romantic choice can bring into a life that was otherwise on a great track.
Let's break it down. First, the subject is described as an excellent student.
That establishes her baseline. She's capable, she's dedicated, she's successful, she's on a clear path.
Then comes the relationship, based on her own choice, based on passion, and then the relationship fails.
And the emotional fallout, it's catastrophic. The source says she became mad. She stopped focusing on her studies.
And most alarmingly, she even wanted to do something terrible.
That extreme detail is there to hammer home the point about emotional dependency. The narrator even asked this really powerful rhetorical question. If someone doesn't love you, why are you destroying your life?
The implication is that a poorly chosen, emotionally volatile partner can act like a wrecking ball. It can just demolish years of hard work and discipline.
All of that focus, the dedication, the intentionality she had for her studies, it was all just obliterated by emotional chaos.
And that brings us right back to the argument for arranged marriage in the source. By focusing on compatibility, the families are trying to choose a partner who will support your goals.
The partner is selected not because of a fleeting passion, but as a reliable co-pilot, someone whose structural alignment with you minimizes the risk of that kind of emotional devastation. It's an external, rational structure designed to protect your life's trajectory.
But to be fair, the sources do acknowledge the counter risk, the risk in the arranged model.
Of course. The risk that your family might choose someone that you just don't like, someone you have no chemistry with, even if they look perfect on paper.
So that sacrifice of your own autonomy can lead to this emotional disconnect, a marriage that feels more like a cold business deal than a real partnership.
I think we need to look closer at that trade-off. In a love marriage, the risk is catastrophic failure from emotional volatility. In an arranged marriage, the risk is a kind of enduring, low-grade dissatisfaction from emotional compromise.
So which risk is worse?
Well, the source material seems to suggest that for people who prioritize stability, the risk of that catastrophic failure, like what the college friend went through, is the greater threat.
It's really about the value of safety nets, isn't it?
I think so. In the arranged system, the family structure is the safety net. It ensures that even if the romance is weak, the financial and social support structure of the marriage is strong.
Whereas in the love marriage system, there is no safety net for that emotional volatility other than the commitment of the two people involved.
A commitment which, as that anecdote shows, can be very fragile under stress.
So at the end of the day, both systems are defined by the type of risk they're willing to accept.
Right. Love marriage accepts high emotional risk for the potential of high passion. Arranged marriage accepts a degree of emotional compromise for the sake of high structural security.
So after laying out the pros and cons of both these systems, the source material comes to a conclusion that's, well, it's very mature, it's complex.
They don't pick a winner.
No, they state very clearly, it really depends on the individuals and what they want in a marriage.
And that's the essential insight, isn't it? The goal of the debate isn't to prove one is better. It's about understanding an individual's own internal calculation for their life.
What do you prioritize? Is it emotional autonomy and the chance for this transcendent passion, even if it comes with a greater risk of volatility?
Or do you prioritize stability, security, long-term support?
Yeah.
Accepting less control up front and maybe a slower, more deliberate path to affection.
The source lands on this idea that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
And no right or wrong answer. It really highlights the value of just having these conversations, of hearing different perspectives, because the right answer depends entirely on your personality, your culture, your goals.
You can almost create a little checklist from this. If you value emotional freedom, if you trust your own judgment above all else, you probably lean toward a love marriage.
But if your primary concerns are family alignment, financial security, and protecting your career goals from emotional chaos, then the arranged model might look very reasonable.
So in both parts of this deep dive, social media and marriage, The source material is basically a guide to intentional living.
It's all about risk assessment.
Yeah.
We are constantly making choices, either tiny micro choices like which app to open.
Or huge macro choices like who to marry. And every single one either builds us up or introduces volatility that can tear us down.
It all comes down to alignment. The student, Anna, she failed because her micro actions, the endless scrolling, were not aligned with her macro goal of graduating.
And the college friend, she suffered a catastrophic failure because her macro choice, an emotionally volatile partner, introduced so much external risk that it destroyed her primary goal.
The whole conversation from start to finish is just this profound reflection on the importance of self-discipline in a very chaotic world.
So what does this all mean? We started this conversation with the distraction of a daily scroll leading to failure, and we ended it talking about lifelong commitment and the risk of emotional devastation.
And the unifying force, as we've said, is the absolute necessity of radical intentionality, of rigorous prioritization.
Across both topics, the source really underscores this need to make sure your daily habits and your huge life choices are actually serving your purpose.
And it shows us two kinds of distraction, doesn't it? There's digital distraction, which eats up your time and focus from the inside.
And then there's emotional distraction, which can destabilize your entire life from the outside.
And both are the enemy of sustained, dedicated effort towards a goal.
The sources basically suggest that relying only on that fleeting emotional attraction and romance, that love is blind idea, can be just as dangerous to your life's path as relying on the fleeting dopamine hit from a phone notification.
Both situations require you to impose some kind of structure to avoid a long-term failure.
It seems like external structures are presented as the main tools we have to manage life's biggest risks.
They are. For digital distraction, the structures are self-imposed, time limits, putting the phone in another room, curating your feed.
And for relationship risk, the structures are either the family's vetting process in an arranged marriage or the mutual disciplined commitment of two people to support each other's goals in a successful love marriage.
The common thread is that old idea that discipline is the foundation of freedom.
You have to discipline your phone use to free up your time.
And you have to discipline your emotional choices to free your future from unnecessary chaos.
So for you, listening to this, the ultimate lesson is to take the intentionality of a digital detox and apply it to every major area of your life.
Every choice, big or small, has to pass that test. Is this action or is this person adding value or consuming value? Is it building stability or is it introducing volatility?
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to think about. The sources suggest that structure is essential for navigating risk. So, given how easily tiny micro-distractions can derail us, how much more should we rely on objective external systems like family input or financial planning or even prenuptial agreements versus relying purely on our own internal romantic feelings when we make a permanent commitment?
Is the modern pursuit of stability in a volatile world? Is it fundamentally a cynical but maybe necessary rejection of total emotional autonomy?
Something to think about. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you for sharing your sources with us.
We hope we've given you plenty for perspective to consider.
We'll see you next time.